Good evening. I would like to call to order the Monday, August 19th meeting of the Wilson School Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mrs. Denny?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Mr. Hart said they had the audio but not this week.
Okay. Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. McCree?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the pledge to the flag. Okay, this evening, our first communication piece is from Dr. Weber on our summer graduates.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, none of our graduates were able to make it here tonight, something about moving on in life, but we felt it important to recognize them all the same. So I'd like to draw attention to the 4 names on the board: Dorjan Christopher, Aiden Gavilan, Kendrea Jane Aurelian, and Shanice Lopez, all graduated this summer earning their diploma. So a round of applause for them. Total numbers for us then, we had a graduating class cohort of 517 This brings our actual graduation number to 492, with 17 students returning this upcoming year as part of their IEP. So very good numbers. We're very excited about that. Still have some work to do, but all the same, very good. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Do we have public participation on agenda items? All right, thank you, Mrs. Burkholder. And the board did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss plans moving forward, which will be shared in 2 weeks' time. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the August 5th, 2024 school board meeting, 2.1.
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you.
Denny, second.
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, this is a voice vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the treasurer's report. Mr. McCray?
Yes, motion to approve the treasurer's report, investment report, general and capital funds, financial reports as presented.
Thank you, Mr. McCray. Do we have a second for 3.1?
Second.
Mr. McCree, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Hart, Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. McCree,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no.
Payment of bills, Mr. McCray. Yes, motion to approve payment of bills from the general fund, $2,904,117.92. From capital reserve, $808,205.95. And from the 2021C construction fund, $1,373,655.66.
Thank you, Mr. McCray. Do we have a motion, do we have a second for 4.1? Mr. McCree, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. McCree,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Financial reports, Mr. McCray.
Motion to approve the financial reports for the month of July, specifically the cafeteria and child care funds, and the activity counts at Southern Middle School, Wilson West Middle School, and the senior high as presented.
Thank you, Mr. McCray. We have a motion. Do we have a second for 5.1? Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. McCree,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Trickett.
Thank you, President Cocker. Included in the superintendent's report are personnel program recommendations for this evening. Unfortunately, we do have a couple additional retirements to post today as we get ready to start our new school year next week. On the positive side, and it's positive for them to retire, of course, but it just means that it's an opportunity for us to kind of retool and bring in some new great people. We do have 8 professional staff members as well as 8 support staff members that we're recommending for hire tonight. 5 of the professional staff members, and it looks like many of their family members are here. If you could just stand for us, please, in the front row. These are all new teachers, a high school assistant principal, former student. I see as well here is joining us as LTS in music. We have elementary school, middle school, and high school represented tonight, and just want to extend a warm welcome to each of you. Look forward to continuing to build relationships with many of you and to see how you impact kids and our staff moving forward in the school year. So welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. We have, looking for a motion for superintendent's items 6.1 through 6.9 as presented.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
Denny, second.
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Any discussion? Dr. Trickett?
Sure. Just a little bit more about our new hires. We had the opportunity to welcome everyone back last week for 3 days here. Actually, it started in this room, I believe. Not everyone was there. Dina, you weren't able to make that day, but most of our staff was here. I think it was close to 70 people. Some of the board members also had the opportunity to be present for that welcoming. And just want to extend to our team, who's responsible for recruiting and selecting these individuals. It is a really amazing group of teachers, related services professionals, and a full gamut of people that are going to support and care for our kids. It's just a great joy to get to know each of you a little bit more, learned a lot about who you are and the different skills that you're bringing, tons of experience this year. When you look across the continuum of all of those 70 individuals, we have folks who are right out of college with tons of energy and enthusiasm and hopefulness, which our job is to keep all of that going, obviously, as long as we can. And in many cases, right next to people that have been teaching for 15 to 20 years. So I think that combination and the willingness of the board to bring in experienced educators will just serve our children in this community very well. So my challenge to the experienced educators is to make sure that you put your arms around those teachers with less experience and help them and support them as we know how hard your jobs are. So thank you for choosing the Wilson School District. Again, not just to the folks that are here, but to all the folks that the board brought on board throughout the last few months.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Any other discussion for superintendent's items? Mrs. Denny?
I had the chance to be here and meet some of the new teachers, and like Dr. Trickett said, I was really impressed with the diversity of experience. It truly ran the whole gamut. But it was really wonderful to see so many, pretty much every administrator at every level that I can think of at all the schools they were here. And the whole room was done up so nicely. It was obvious that a lot of time and intentionality had gone into planning the training. And I hope the staff that was here felt it, that it wasn't just, hey, come and spend the morning while we lecture at you. It was really meant to be a true welcome, and I thought the school did a great job with that. And all of the teachers that were there seemed really excited. And the food was exceptional, too. There was quite a variety. So kudos for all that.
Thank you, Mrs. Denny. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. McCree,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
So officially welcome, and we will see you tomorrow morning, right, around 8 o'clock? Yeah. So you got in just under the wire to join the big celebration tomorrow. So thank you and welcome. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay, on to approval of field trips. 7.1, request approval of an overnight trip to South Mountain YMCA for our 6th grade students. This is the big one, the 6th grade camp. So Southern Middle School students will attend Monday, September 23rd through Friday, September 27th. West Middle School will attend Monday, September 30th through Friday, October 4th, pending solicitor review and approval of contracts. So looking for a motion for our 7.1 6th grade camp. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. McCree beat you. Sorry. Mr. McCree, thank you. Any discussion? Mrs. Denny?
Based on the previous years, I think we all really need to hope and pray for no rain. I think they've had some pretty bad weather the last few years, so let's hope for beautiful fall weather.
Well, and this year, I believe they're splitting the teams, which is why there's so many, so it's a full week for West and a full week for Southern. Last year, they had everybody, all of the 6th graders from each middle school at the same, so hopefully this will be a little less stressful for the teachers as well, to have half of the students they had at camp with them last year, but definitely, we're hope for positive rain and that the children drink water, because that was a problem. At least from my experience, that was a problem last year. They were super dehydrated. So, 6th graders. Any other discussion points for 7.1? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a voice vote. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Consent items. Request to accept with gratitude the following donations. For our new teacher orientation lunch, chicken nugget trays from Chick-fil-A Broadcasting Square, pizza and salads from Original Mama's Pizza, and sandwiches from Subway Berkshire Square. So looking for a motion to approve the donations for 8.1.
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
Denny, second.
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, this is a voice vote as well, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Under Human Resources, 9.1, request to authorize the superintendent to make employment commitments to qualified applicants for the purpose of filling vacancies that occur after the August 19th, 2024 board meeting, with action to be ratified by the school board at the next official meeting. 9.2, request approval to authorize the appointment of Dina Burkhart to assistant principal at high school, effective, to be determined, hopefully as soon as possible. So looking for a motion to approve Human Resources items 9.1 through 9.2.
Casper.
Mr. Hart, thank you.
Oh.
Mrs.
Casper,
Casper, second. Thank you. Any discussion? Dr. Trickett?
Yes, please. Just wanted for a minute, welcome again Mrs. Burkhart to the Wilson School District as serving as the role of assistant principal in the high school. We went through a pretty lengthy process as a team. Dr. Weber's here, Dr. Stout, Dr. Hofford, and others were participating in that. She rose to the top pretty much unanimously with our interview team, which included all of our assistant principals. Really looking forward to bringing your experience, specifically some of those experiences at the middle level, and your long time spent in the classroom. I think both of those things, as well as your energy and enthusiasm and commitment to kids, will really serve you and our team well as you transition. So congratulations again to you, and can't wait to get you on board.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion for Human Resources? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Student Services, 10.1, request to approve the renewal of the Caron Foundation Service Agreement for the Student Assistant Program for services during the 2024-25 school year at a cost of $61,567, pending solicitor review and approval. 10.2, request approval of a resolution approving and adopting a student discipline waiver and a consent agreement dated August 7th, 2024. 10.3, request approval to continue the community partnership with Helping Harvest Weekender Program for all elementary schools. And 10.4, request to approve a renewal of a service agreement with AnthroMed Education for the 2024-25 school year to provide a contracted full-time speech and language therapist to support special education students and programs at the agreed-upon rate for up to 37.5 hours per week, invoiced monthly. Looking for a motion to approve student service items 10.1 through 10.4.
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Operations, 11.1, request approval of change order 2 for removal of concrete pad by E.R. Stubner for the High School Performing Arts Center construction. 11.2, request approval of the purchase of room signage with Braille for the lower house by Quality Awnings and Signs, Inc. 11.3, request approval to use BEI Boja Engineering for traffic impact study for the proposed K-5 elementary school at Lincoln Park. 11.4, request permission to enter into an annual service agreement with CM3. 11.5, request approval to enter into an agreement with with Food Facilities Concepts, Inc. as the food service design consultant for the proposed Wilson Southern Middle School serving area renovation project, pending solicitor review. 11.6, request approval of the purchase of 2 new video boards and 2 scoreboards from Watchfire for the high school gymnasium, pending solicitor review. 11.7, request approval of the installation of 2 new video boards and scoreboards by Strickler for the high school gymnasium, pending solicitor review. And 11.8, request approval for HB Fraser Company to perform the electrical work for the proposed high school gymnasium scoreboard and video board installations, pending solicitor review. Looking for a motion to approve operations items 11.1 through 11.8.
So moved. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. McCree, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Case?
Yeah, just wanted to discuss a couple of things, or at least just fill in. So these items were brought up at the last facilities committee meeting. And with regard to the video boards in the gym, there was a large discussion, about the boards and their value. And it turns out these video boards, there are 4 projectors that are in the gym today that are kind of on the outs. Some don't work. To replace those could be $10,000 potentially each, times 4. So these video boards will actually be used for tomorrow's ceremony, potentially with new teacher onboarding, any kind of gathering at the gym, graduation kind of ceremonies, if anything was inside. So these boards will be used not just for sporting events, but for also many other events. So I think it is a great investment for Wilson from a communication standpoint, et cetera. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then, obviously some of the signage for the Braille came up. I mean, that's for compliance. Those are my only 2 notes for things that are coming up on this. Anyone have any questions on anything here? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Any other discussion for operations items? Mrs. Denny?
I just wanted to add on to what Mr. Case said, that it's my understanding the 4 scoreboards that we have right now are about 20 years old, which in technology terms is ancient. And besides all of the ways it'll be able to be used, as Mr. Case discussed, I'm really excited to see what our students are going to be able to do with it. I think we're going to be able to see some really great student projects out of this at basketball games and at student events and different things that are held there. So it's really a great opportunity for them as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Denny. Any other discussion for operations? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Finance, 12.1, request approval of the budget transfers dated June 30th, 2024, as attached. Looking for a motion for 12.1.
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. McCree, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Denny?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. McCree?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Curriculum and Staff Development, 13.1, request approval of agreements with SWIS Suite to implement school-wide positive behavioral interventions and supports at Cornwall Terrace and Shiloh Hills Elementary Schools. 13.2, request approval to enter into a contract with Better Lesson as attached. This partnership is at no cost to the district and is being paid for by a grant secured by Better Lessons. It's mobile science and math education programs from the state of Pennsylvania. 13.3, request approval of the affiliation agreement with the Reading Hospital for non-clinical internship program for high school seniors as attached. And 13.4, request approval of the Pennsylvania Department of Education Targeted Support Improvement Plan for the economically disadvantaged, English language learners, and Hispanic subgroups at Wilson Southern Middle School. Looking for a motion to approve curriculum and staff development items 13.1 through 13.4.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr.
Casper.
Kennedy? Oh. It's always a race. Dr. Kennedy, I'll give it to you. Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, for 13.1, just trying to understand the theory of why 2 of the 5 elementary schools.
Dr. Trickett?
Sure, great question. I'd like to ask Dr. Stout or Dr. Tachufo to come up to address the board about that question.
So it's 2 out of the 5 because those 2 schools they're a little bit more advanced in their positive behavior systems so far, our school-wide positive behavior systems. And we really want to broaden that, but in order to do that, we really wanted to focus on those 2 schools first and then see where it goes. And if it's something that is of value for the rest of the schools, we will be implementing that in the future.
So is that like a 1-year time frame? You'll have enough information to determine it has value, or?
I believe so. I think that we would be able to make a pretty conscious decision after this year.
After this year, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion for curriculum and staff development items?
President Cocker.
Yes, Mrs. Casper.
I just wanted to commend 13.4, our team, for all their work at Southern. And we have a very talented group of English, of ESL teachers there. I just wanted to commend their work that they've been doing with our rapidly growing English learner population in that particular building. So I just wanted to commend them in spite of the extra work that we're going to be needing to do. I think we're on track for a positive outcome. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Any other discussion points? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. McCree,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Transportation, 14.1, request approval and agreement with St. Luke's Occupational Medicine for Department of Transportation regulated random testing for Transportation Department CDL drivers according to the attached agreement. 14.2, request approval and agreement with Ephrata Mennonite School for the transportation of students to Ephrata Mennonite School for the 2024-25 school year. Looking for a motion to approve transportation items 15.1 and 15.2.
Denny?
Mrs. Denny, thank you. Do we have a second?
Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. McCree,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Brings us to committee reports. BCTC, Mrs. Casper.
Yes, thank you, President Cocker. We have not met since our last meeting. Our next meeting is next Wednesday, the 28th, at the East Campus. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Kennedy for BCIU and curriculum.
Yes, the curriculum committee has not met since our last board meeting, but we will be meeting next Wednesday, I believe. The BCIU did meet last Thursday. The theme of the BCIU meeting was really celebrating the past year and getting ready and gearing up for the next school year. The BCIU celebrated at the Reading Phillies with a BCIU night, and then they held the, I don't know if I should, closer or further away? Get closer. Okay. Almost 400 school administrators came together at the Muhlenberg High School to do the annual Berks County Administrators Conference. And then this week and last week, BCIU will be doing a series of state of the unit activities, getting their staff ready to gear up for the following school year. And lastly, let me find it. I didn't bring my glasses today, so I'm on the struggle bus. Nope, that's not what I wanted to say. Oh, they are getting a brand-new website. So in order to be ADA compliant, they're going to be completely redoing the BCIU website. So they did the BCIU website. So check it out and see it's much more user-friendly and it's ADA compliant. And that's about it from the BCIU. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Student Services, Mr. McCree.
No report.
Thank you. Berks EIT, Mrs. Schlossman. Thank you. Extracurricular committee has not met since our last meeting, and will not meet again before our next meeting. But all of the extracurricular activities for the high school are up and running, and the middle schools, I believe, if my calculations are correct, are starting for tryouts now. Yeah. So for anybody in a district our size, for all of the students that want to be involved in all the extracurriculars, I'm sure the last week and this upcoming week are going to include a little bit of heartbreak for students that didn't make different teams. So just keep that in mind with, our little friends, that it's not always easy, but possibly that maybe opens the door to a new activity for them. So just try and stay positive, because I know that's probably the hardest thing that they're dealing with right now, other than starting, their first year of high school, first year of middle school. So yeah, it's tough. So my heart goes out to all of you if you are in that situation. Facilities Committee, Mr. Case.
Thank you. Our Facilities Committee met last week and started off with our CFO, Christine, going through the capital funds update. A couple of things that were going on there just from projects for 24-25. Some of them you saw today. Boardroom, AV equipment will be part of the discussion. Paving, miscellaneous paving around the district, playground equipment, bathrooms, electronic signage at Spring Ridge, gym scoreboards, walk-in freezer, and some other prioritized needs, coming up to $1.1 million for projected projects for 2024, 2025. So the capital presentation is online. If anyone would like to see it, it's part of the, if you go to the school board committees, Facilities Committee, you can see the latest links, et cetera. Some of the other things that were going on, lower house update, HVAC is coming to an end, that project, so expect contractors to be out of the building by this Friday, which was August 16th last week. We talked about the Braille for ADA compliance, custodial, janitorial price increases for Carter's Pro Quality. That went up 3%, for custodial services that we contract out. The Gursky track and track updates. The track is completed. However, line striping will soon follow. That should be completed before the first football game, correct? Right? I think we're still on target for that. And then from other construction update, exterior is, we're gaining on schedule from the large project that's going on, and the hallway block is starting to be installed, and I believe that's at Southern, correct? The hallway block, that's at Southern.
The hallway block that's referring to is in the main corridor of the high school, adjacent to the current auditorium. Yep.
So there was a question that came up, and I'm going to sort of do a little tangent here. For Southern Middle School, when you first walk in, that you kind of are hit with a smaller area. But the extension in the future will help alleviate that, correct? Okay, just making sure. That one of the things that came up.
Yeah, those classrooms are temporary.
Right, okay. Boardroom renovations, we see the new carpet looks great. I was a little worried when everyone was talking about the colors, but they actually look phenomenal. So then there's going to be some more painting and woodwork. I believe, is everything done now? Or there will be more?
A little bit more up top. The acoustical tiles or reflective tiles will be painted. You can see similar to what it will look like over there. And then there's a media upgrade that's coming as well.
Fantastic. And then we talked about the boards for the gymnasium. And then the traffic study. There's a traffic study that was on the board that we already approved with regard to Lincoln Park. And there's more to come on the traffic study and what's going to become of that. And that's it. That's my report. The next meeting is October 14th. Thank you.
Thank you for the report, Mr. Case. Finance Committee, Mr. McCray.
No report.
Thank you. Legislative, Mr. Schneider.
I have no report.
Thank you. Human Resources, Mr. Hart.
I have no report, but I do want to say welcome back to all the teachers, support staff, and administration. I hope you have a great year and enjoy the kickoff tomorrow. So good luck and enjoy your year.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's hard to believe that by next week at this time, we'll be already through our first day of school. So we are gearing up here. Actually, we already talked a lot about what happened last week. We were able to welcome over 70 new staff members for our new employee orientation event. One of the highlights, I think, of that event was we took all of them on a tour, a bus tour of the district. It was really fun. It was some great commentators while we were on the bus. And we stopped at some various points of interest along the way. We stopped at Grings Mill, we had lunch, all donated by area restaurants. So it was amazing. Just the generosity of our community continues to just overwhelm us. In addition, we were able to give every new employee a swag bag complete with additional special gifts from community partners. So once again, it's a great place to live right here in the Wilson School District because everybody really does support our students and our staff. So we're super excited to welcome these new Bulldogs to our team. And then tomorrow, we are officially kicking off the school year with all of our staff. We're going to have breakfast, a presentation by Dr. Trickett regarding our strategic vision and goals. And then on Wednesday, the Wilson Education Association is going to be co-sponsoring a district-wide lunch for our entire staff. So this is something we've done every year. It's become a tradition, and it's amazing. Our food service team makes lunch for all of our staff. We divide between the two cafeterias, and it's just an awesome event. So really, we're excited that these two events will set the stage for us to welcome our students back for the new school year with lots of excitement. And then finally, we wanted to share that our year in review piece is complete, and it will be mailed to all district residents by the end of this week. The piece showcases the stories of our students, staff, and community, and we want to just have a special shout out to our digital media coordinator, Sam Weitzel, who managed this entire project. So please just be on the lookout for the year in review in your mailbox soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Troutman. Education Foundation, back to Mr. Case.
Thank you. Not much to report other than I'll just do a plug for, I know the Education Foundation gets very involved in the very beginning of school, and they do a lot of things for the teachers and supporting the staff. So I just want to thank Molly and the entire Education Foundation team, for everything they do. One of the things, big events that's coming up is the 11th Annual Wilson Education Foundation Bash. That is Saturday, October 5th. At First Energy Stadium from 6 to 10 p.m. There's all sorts of sponsorship opportunities and ways to get involved. So take a look on our website and navigate to the Education Foundation. Reach out to the office if you want to get tickets or anything like that. So just wanted to do a shout out for the big event, October 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Technology Committee, Mr. McCray.
I'll defer to Mr. Schneider as I was unable to attend today.
Thank you. We had a brief meeting today where we talked about the security camera installation. It's all wrapped up at the middle schools, the lower house, the elementary schools. Just have to finish up at the high school. Should be ready to go for the start of school. 81 new line panels were installed this summer. We got 1,100 new Chromebooks in. The radios for the elementary school, that has been delayed due to something with Motorola. We sold a number of projectors as we've moved to these new line panels, and we had a pretty interesting conversation about the role of AI in education from all the angles, the educators, the community, the students. So there's going to be a lot more to talk about that as we go forward.
Well, thank you, Mr. Schneider. Mr. McCray. That is the end of committee reports. Unless Mr. Maravich, do you have any specific announcement? Okay. And just to be sure, we have no public participation on non-agenda items. Thank you, Mrs. Burkholder. Do we have any other business from the board? Mrs. Denny?
With school starting next week, I wanted to take a moment to recognize our transportation department. Prior to being in this role, I didn't realize everything that goes into getting our kids physically to school. And by law, we do not have to provide transportation, though if we provide it to some students, we have to provide it to all students. I would imagine there's a lot of data out there that providing transportation increases school participation and attendance. So I'm really glad we do that, but the logistics of it are incredible. I had the chance in May to go and visit with the transportation department. I was out of my house by 5:45, something my children were just in shock about, and my husband, as that is not an hour I'm usually out the door at. And when I got there, I got to meet many of the drivers who were all very friendly and alert and awake, which is good if they're going to be driving our kids. And I had the chance to take a ride with Miss Kim to do both her middle school and elementary school runs. I was so impressed. She showed me everything they do before the bus ever leaves the parking lot and what it does when it comes back. As you might imagine, anybody who has had a middle school child, which I think everybody here has, the middle school kids not so chatty when they got on the bus, but they clearly were happy to see Miss Kim. They responded to her. They said, almost everyone said good morning. The elementary kids were thrilled to see her. And I was thinking for anyone who has kindergartners going off to school this year, like for the kids that get bused, the very first employee of Wilson that they will encounter on the first day of school is that bus driver. And so as a parent, you are entrusting your child to this person to get them to school and to be a friendly face. And our elementary driver, who we had most of the years, Miss Jen, she's not driving anymore, when she would bring the kids home, she'd be like, oh, I think he had a bad day today, or, you know, did you hear about the test? So she clearly was invested in the kids. And the work that Mr. Williams and his whole team do to the whole system they have, it's really impressive. So I know my family has been on a double bus run for the past few years, which is not ideal. It makes for long days. But having seen everything that goes into it, I have a much greater appreciation of why that may need to be the case. So as you send your kids off, and every Wilson student will at some point be bused if they choose to take the bus because of the way our school is. It was different when the lower house was central, but every child will be bused. So maybe say an extra thank you to your bus driver. Say thank you to Mr. Williams, who is here for all of him and his team's hard work as we start the school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Denny. Dr. Kennedy?
I'll just piggyback on what Mrs. Denny said. I've had 4 kids go through the buses. I walked to school I was never a busser growing up. And it is the greatest thing to ever happen, to just be able to walk down to the bottom of your driveway and get picked up. I would add, especially to the kindergarten parents, because they don't know what to expect, to please give grace to our bus drivers on that first week of school. It will go awry. There are how many bussers? A couple thousand buses, kids? They will absolutely go awry. And you will think day 1 will be a mess, and day 2 will be better, and day 3 it'll be like they did it their whole life. Like, they just need a little grace on those first couple days. If you are a parent and you are a parent of a kindergartner or a new student to our district, sign up for our Stop Finder app. It literally traces your child's bus, and you can watch it go. So when it is 25 minutes late that first day, you know you didn't, because I'm always afraid I missed it. Like, I'm always like, I think sometimes it's still down in Jenny's neighborhood. So sign up for that Stop Finder. Know that the kids aren't going to get in trouble if they're late the first 2 or 3 days of school. It'll be fine. And by the end of the year, by the end of the week, it just runs like clockwork. It's just those first couple days. You have to imagine, there's got to be one crying kid that you have to peel from your parent's leg. Like, that alone makes your bus 5-10 minutes late. So give the drivers, give the kids, give the aides some grace. I promise it will be better. It will be better. I have many years of experience with busing now, and it always gets better by day 3.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Any other business from the board? Okay, hearing none. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Schneider, so moved.
Meeting adjourned.